Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back. I came across another video about cryptocurrency on YouTube recently, and usually I'm pretty wary about YouTube videos of YouTubers who are not crypto people talk about crypto, right? I came across this video called "Misconceptions about Cryptocurrency," and I'm actually subscribed to this channel for a long time. It's a channel called Mental Floss, which I really like this channel, and I think they have a lot of great content. Now I have not seen this video, so I'll be reacting to it the first time live with you right now. Yeah, hopefully this video is good. I love Mental Floss and I have a lot of respect for this channel, and I do think that they are probably going to do a good job. Yeah, you never know. I do consider myself somewhat of a cryptocurrency expert. Now I'm not like saying this to brag or anything, right? But I have spent a lot of time, and I work for a crypto company too, by the way. Yeah, I have spent a lot of time studying crypto. Yeah, I think that it would be worthwhile for me to provide some commentary regarding this video, and let's see if they get a lot of these like myth debunking things right about cryptocurrency. Without further ado, let's jump in.
As the natural evolution of banking. Others see crypto as a passing fad designed to bilk people out of their savings. And then there are the rest of us, nodding politely as we quietly wonder why anyone would invest thousands of dollars to a digital currency based on a dog meme. Hi, I'm your host, Justin Dodd, and today we're debunking myths about cryptocurrency. We'll discuss Bitcoin's pseudo anonymity, explain how these currencies relate to NFTs, and debate whether 99% of Bitcoin is really owned by just a handful of users. Let's get started.
I love this intro, by the way.
There's an infinite supply of Bitcoin. Part of what makes it so hard for people to even wrap their minds around cryptocurrency is that it's not tangible. There's no physical cryptocurrency. Well, there are some people who have tried to make such a thing, but it's still a bit convoluted. In general, when we talk about cryptocurrency, we're talking about a digital asset. The paper money in our wallets hold a certain value, and there's only so much of that money in circulation at any given time. This, in theory, keeps the value in check. Print too much money, value drops off, inflation rises. But cryptocurrencies seem to be the opposite. They exist solely in the digital world and aren't monitored or printed by a government. So, in theory, something like Bitcoin can be mined and bought in perpetuity by individuals until it's essentially worthless. Well, turns out that's not quite right. Bitcoin was designed specifically to have a limited supply in order to prevent inflation and retain its value. And the complex system in place to maintain that limited supply is pretty ingenious. When the creators of Bitcoin, who operate under the Satoshi Nakamoto pseudonym, thought up this whole enterprise, they knew they needed to put a cap on their digital currency to preserve its value. They settled on a grand total of 21 million units. That is all the Bitcoin that will ever exist before the world hits the end of the road. But those 21 million units weren't given to the public at once. Each new batch of Bitcoin first needs to be mined before being released. That requires a high-end computer mining rig or multiple rigs to solve a complex math puzzle. These puzzles have been described as both guesswork and a lottery. Even after trying 4 billion times, according to data scientist Kirill Eremenko, you have an estimated chance of success of 0.00000000001%. So as you can imagine, it takes a lot of computing power to successfully mine. The first miner or group of miners to solve a given puzzle is rewarded by the Bitcoin network with a set amount of coins, which in April 22 was around 6.25 coins, equivalent to about $130,000 as of July 11th, 2022. That reward is only part of it. The mining process also creates new blocks for the blockchain, a kind of digital ledger for all Bitcoin-based transactions to be recorded and stored. Around 144 blocks are added per day, and each contains around 500 transactions. Adding new blocks to the blockchain basically works to verify any Bitcoin transactions in progress. Think of it as a replacement for your bank verifying all of your credit card purchases. Instead of a central authority like JP Morgan, it's a peer-to-peer system without borders and without any one entity in charge. There are an untold number of miners out there working around the clock, so transactions like one person sending Bitcoin to another are typically verified within 10 minutes or so, depending on the volume. So, yeah, mining does yield new Bitcoin, but it also makes the whole blockchain system go round by verifying the transactions taking place. To fight against inflation, blocks are designed to yield 50% fewer Bitcoins after every 210,000 blocks are released. That usually takes around 4 years or so. Basically, the more we squeeze the orange, the less juice we're getting. The creators were apparently thinking decades ahead when coming up with this strategy because while we've already mined more than 19 million bitcoins, it's estimated that the entire supply won't be fully available to the public until 2140, thanks to the decreasing yields. And that's just the way Bitcoin works. Other cryptocurrencies operate completely differently, from the way the blockchain is verified to the real world assets that back them. But we'll get to all of that in a minute. Crypto.
And yeah, that's absolutely correct. So, I like everything he just said. But yeah, basically, I think he could have gone into a little bit more detail about why all of this is necessary, right? So, I'm sure a lot of beginners, when beginners first get into crypto or Bitcoin, they're like, "Oh, why do I have to mine all this Bitcoin using all this electricity, right? Like, why are we quote unquote wasting all this energy mining Bitcoin?" Well, think about it. This system is especially designed to be this way. Like, we could easily have made it easier such that you don't need as such as the puzzle, like the SHA-256 hashing algorithm. That's what the math problem is called. We could have easily like decrease the difficulty and make it not so hard to mine Bitcoin. But then if you think about it, like if it's too easy for you to mine Bitcoin, then it becomes worthless, right? It's just like if I pick up a rock from the ground and I try to use it for a transaction, and I try to give it to you in exchange for you to like provide me some good or service, like a cup of coffee or something, you'd most likely say no, right? Because it took me like no effort to bend down to give you a rock that I just found on the ground, right? So, yeah, just you need to expend work in order to get more of the currency, or else that currency becomes worthless. So think about why we use gold, or why we consider gold as money, right? It's because you have to dig gold out from the ground, you have to purify it, and you have to cast it into a coin or a bar or whatever, right? And gold is really hard to find. So you somebody has to go through all that effort to get the gold. If gold was as abundant as rocks, then we most likely wouldn't use gold as money, right? So, and not only does something have to be scarce, but you also have to expend work in order to get more of it. So that's kind of the principle that we're trying to bring onto the digital space. So can we have a digital version of a resource that's hard to get, right? Because if we make it too easy to get, then it becomes worthless, right? So this is why we use proof of work, which is the method of Bitcoin mining to get more Bitcoin. So yeah, this is the background on why it is that we need all these computers to crank all these math problems.
Is guaranteed to go up. While Bitcoin's self imposed scarcity is designed to preserve its value over the long haul, it's not a guarantee that prices will go up, despite what passionate crypto evangelists might say on Twitter. If there's no demand for a coin, say if it never becomes a universal payment option, or if speculative interest rise up, it will not appreciate in value, no matter how tightly the supply is controlled. Scarcity alone does not guarantee value. Let's look at it in a way we can all understand through dog poop. If all the dog poop on the planet disappeared tomorrow except for three handsome little logs and all dogs stop pooping, it's hard to imagine those three dog poops would suddenly be worth millions of dollars, right? Right? Someone please tell me that's right. All crypto has.
Yeah, and this is a good point to make as well. I think a lot of people are way too skeptical about crypto, which is a good thing to be skeptical of something new, right? I get it, right? But also at the same time, you also have people that are way too overexcited about crypto, right? So for beginners who first jump into crypto, you'll see a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I got to buy in now. Crypto only goes up. I'm gonna be a millionaire overnight." Well, that's not how things work, right? And sure, there could be instances where a coin goes up 10x overnight. Anything could happen, right? But most likely, you won't find coins like that. And a lot of the times, even if a coin goes up 10x and then it comes down like 90% a few days later. Like this stuff happens all the time, right? So I don't want you to get into a mindset where you think that crypto is just going to go up like it's a guarantee or anything like that because it isn't, right? And anyone who is trying to convince you that crypto only goes up, crypto is a guarantee way to make money, well, they're most likely trying to scam you. So you don't want to get too FOMO and too overexcited, but you also don't want to be so close-minded that you miss all the opportunity, right? Because I do think that there is a lot of good use cases for crypto, and it's a developing technology, right? It's an innovation that we're exploring. So you kind of gotta keep a skeptical mind, but also uh, yeah, be open-minded as to opportunity. So I think, yeah, that's exactly right. Don't think that crypto only goes up. That's a bad idea.
Has an equal environmental impact. Bitcoin mining is an incredibly fascinating system, but its impact on the environment cannot be ignored. Those crypto miners out in the world all use beefy computer rigs that need to perform complex computing. That requires time, storage space, and most importantly, energy. It's estimated that the combined energy usage of Bitcoin miners is 91 terawatt hours of electricity every year, which is more than what is used by the entire nation of Finland annually.
So yeah, this is one thing that I think a lot of people, a lot of critics of Bitcoin get wrong is that Bitcoin is somehow like a scourge on the earth and is causing climate change and all that. So it sounds very scary when you say that Bitcoin uses more energy than the entire nation of Finland, right? But if you think about it, a lot of things use a lot more energy than the country of Finland, right? How about Christmas lights, right? Did you know that in the United States, we use more energy for Christmas lights every season than Bitcoin, right? And should we like ban all Christmas lights then, right? How about transportation, right? I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would say that just I would claim that all the energy used towards transportation, i.e., planes, buses, cars and everything in just Canada alone per year is more than the total energy used by Bitcoin mining, right? So I don't know if that's true, but I think it might be. And if it is, does that mean that we should ban all cars, right, and all planes, right? No, because it everything uses energy, right? So think about what you're getting in return, though. So I think a lot of people, the people who criticize Bitcoin's energy usage, they have an assumption baked in, and the assumption is that Bitcoin is worthless. So they've already accepted the fact, the premise that Bitcoin is worthless. So any energy you use towards it, you're wasting it. Like that's kind of the argument, right? So we'll spend a lot of time discussing why Bitcoin is not worthless in the coming future. But just keep that in mind that there's actually an assumption baked in. So, but if you reject the premise that Bitcoin is worthless, and if you try to reason that what if Bitcoin is something that is worthwhile that we should be putting energy into, then you can go from there, right? So for example, like why should just very quickly, why should Bitcoin be worth something rather than nothing, right? Well, if you look at how much transaction volume and how much money is being moved around on the Bitcoin network on a per year, per hour, per day, whatever unit of time you want to see, then it's like a large amount of money, right? And it's compare that to Visa, compare that to Mastercard, right? We're moving more money around than a lot of these big credit card networks and Western Union and all that, right? So if we switch to Bitcoin, um, then we could get rid of like Western Union and Visa, MasterCard, and like think about how many people work at Western Union, right? And if we shut down all the Western Union office buildings and like their operating costs become zero, like it will actually save a lot of energy. So that's the first thing that is very difficult to kind of ascertain exactly how much energy is being used by all these companies, because that information is not transparent, right? So, how much energy can we actually save if we replaced a lot of these institutions, or a lot of these services of payments with Bitcoin, right? It's difficult to ascertain, but I would imagine that we could actually save a lot of energy, first of all, right? And second of all, the energy mix of Bitcoin mining is actually one of the cleanest. So if you actually look up the data of the proportion of Bitcoin mining electricity that is coming from renewable resources, it's one of the highest industries. It's one of the industries with the highest proportion of renewable energy sources. So if we're using a lot of solar energy, if we're using a lot of wind energy, or even nuclear energy, which is technically like not like fully 100% renewable, it is very clean, right? It is a very clean source of energy. So look at how much of Bitcoin mining electricity is coming from nuclear power plants. I think you'll find that Bitcoin mining is actually one of the cleanest industries out there. So all this FUD against Bitcoin's energy usage, I think just comes from a basic lack of understanding of how Bitcoin mining actually works, or what Bitcoin is, or all the benefits that Bitcoin can provide. So I don't want to bore you guys because I could talk about this for like an hour, but let's move on.
Annually, according to the New York Times. But not all cryptocurrencies are created equal. Bitcoin's system of using miners to solve math equations to verify and add to the blockchain is called proof of work. It makes for an extremely secure currency, but it's also a big time energy drain. Other cryptocurrencies like Solana, Terra, and Cardano use a system called proof of stake. In this system, individuals who own a certain amount of a specific cryptocurrency can offer to validate blocks of transactions to add to that currency's blockchain. Like the name suggests, they do this by joining a group of randomly selected validators and putting their own coins at stake, sort of like collateral, until the validation is confirmed. Once confirmed by the consensus, the validators might get some cryptocurrency or a portion of the transaction fees associated with the transactions in the block as a reward. If a validator does not do their job, if they go offline or try to attack the network, for example, some or all of their stake can be taken away in a process called slashing. By depending on individuals with actual skin in the game, it's theoretically supposed to be an honest system. Both methods use computer algorithms to validate transactions on the blockchain, but since proof of stake doesn't require millions of miners competing with each other with the biggest machines possible, the energy usage is far lower. Some estimates put it at more than 99% lower. Even amongst proof of stake cryptocurrencies, though, there can be significant deviation in energy consumption. The way networks are set up and the specific hardware used to validate transactions can all affect the environmental impact of any given coin. Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so proof of stake definitely uses a lot less energy, and I would reckon it's actually like more than 99%. It's more like 99.999% like less energy usage than proof of work, right? Because you basically don't really need any energy to run a proof of stake network, because all you do is you're just making a connection with the network, and that's it, right? So what you're using, like what you can use is just like a Raspberry Pi computer, and you can stake your coins that way, or you can build a validator using just like a tiny like Raspberry Pi computer with like a cell phone battery. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into this whole debate about proof of work or proof of stake though, because there's pros and cons to each, right? Like Justin just said, it is it uses a lot less energy, but in terms of security, is not as battle tested as proof of work. So a lot of these like hacks that you've heard of, like attacks on the network, it'd be really, really difficult to attack the Bitcoin network because it's secured by proof of work. and there's so much energy being inputted into the network, and it secures the network, right? But with proof of stake, especially with a lot of these newer coins, a lot more things can go wrong. So there's pros and cons to each, and let's not get into the debate today, and let's just move on.
Currency always functions as a currency. When Bitcoin first hit the mainstream, the general thought was that it would eventually stake a claim as a true digital currency that cut out banks and allowed people to easily make transactions anywhere in the world. But despite gaining in value over the years, it has not quite become that. No cryptocurrency has, in fact. It still isn't a readily accepted means of payment in the US or around the globe. Even in El Salvador, where Bitcoin is legal tender, only 1/5 of businesses accept it. If you're looking to spend your Bitcoin or Ether on real world goods or services, you're probably stuck going through a third party app like Flexa. And even then, you'll likely be hit with high fees and transaction times of up to 10 minutes or more. Right now, the most convenient thing to do with crypto is to buy more crypto or to liquidate it for a more traditional currency. Because crypto doesn't exactly act like a currency, the US government has settled on classifying it as a commodity. Now, the definition of commodity is pretty broad, but crypto does meet certain requirements. Like other exhaustible resources, many have a fixed supply, and you can engage in futures trading with them, meaning you can have a contract to buy or sell a specific crypto when it hits a certain price at a future date. To many people, crypto is simply an investment like a stock, and a highly speculative one at that, subject to large swings. All that said, remember that a commodity today could evolve into a currency down the road, and there's still a possibility that crypto will eventually become a convenient way for people around the world, especially in developing countries, to engage in traditional purchases without the need for a centralized bank. Or it might not. I don't know. Neither do you. Leave me alone. All
Yeah, that's a good point where it's not like not all cryptocurrencies are currencies, right? And I do talk about this as well. I think I did talk about this in a previous video, but according to Michael Saylor, who developed what's called the four quadrant model, there's actually four different broad categories of what we call cryptocurrencies. So the term cryptocurrency is actually somewhat of a misnomer because they're not all currencies, right? So number one, we have digital property, which is kind of what Bitcoin is. It's analogous to like a gold or a real estate, where it's supposed to function as a store of value. So the second category is digital currencies. That's stuff like stable coins or XRP or Stella, or Stellar, sorry. And it's specially designed for you to transact with, right? So very low transaction fees, almost no transaction fees, like fractions and fractions of a penny worth of transaction fees, and very high throughput, so very high transactions per second count. So there's other categories like Ethereum is more so of the third category, which is decentralized platforms. It's a generalized crypto platform that you can build stuff on. And the fourth category is decentralized applications, which are things like DEXs or DeFi protocols or just anything you want that can be built on top of, let's say, something like an Ethereum or Cardano or something like that. So, as you can see, it's not all currencies because it's actually four different broad categories. So yeah, I don't want to hear people say, just because I can't use it to buy coffee, then Bitcoin is worthless. Well, no, because it's so much more than just using it as a day-to-day currency, right? And eventually I do think that it will be used as a day-to-day currency, but that takes years and years of development and work, and adoption. And we're not quite there yet, unfortunately. And this is because if you think about it, what are paper money that we use right now, right? Or what is like a credit card transaction? Well, a credit card transaction sits on top of your credit card issuer, which sits on top of, like, let's say, a bank. Or sometimes the bank is the issuer, but let's say like it sits on top of a bank, right? Which sits on top of your central bank of your government. So it's very a lot of layers deep, right? So you're using when you tap a credit card, you don't realize you're using like a layer 3 or layer 4 technology, versus Bitcoin is kind of like analogous to transacting with physical gold, which is layer 1. So on top of gold, you can issue banknotes that are backed by the gold, and then if you want to abstract further, now we have fiat money, which is not backed by gold at all. So it's just paper that's backed by trust in a government or trust in a bank. So we're using all the currencies that we're using as mediums of exchange. They are multi-layered, higher than what the base thing is, which we all started off of gold, right? So Bitcoin is kind of analogous to that base layer. Now, if you do want to use Bitcoin as a transaction, like they do in El Salvador, who adopted it as legal tender, they use what's called the Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network is a layer 2 for Bitcoin, where you can have a lot of transactions that happen very fast, and also for pretty much for free, right? Like the fees are so low that it's essentially free. So that's kind of like a layer 2 for Bitcoin. But yeah, it's not, we're not there yet where everyone's gonna adopt the Lightning Network and everyone's gonna be transacting with Bitcoin, but I think it's just like the early internet, right? It's gonna take time, and maybe in like 10 years from now or in 20 years from now, but right now we're not quite there yet. But don't think that it's a failure just because we can't use it to buy a coffee yet, and not that many places accept Bitcoin or crypto. It's gonna take time. Hey guys, thank you for watching part one of my reaction video to Mental Floss's misconceptions about cryptocurrency. So I hope you all really enjoyed that video, and please give me a like if you did. So that video was way too long, so I had to break it into two parts. So part two will be coming very shortly, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.